Okay, so hello, my kako, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Mahalo to everyone here and in Zoom land for coming. And before we get started, you have that first slide. I want to give a shout out to the gentleman with the skateboard. Yeah, that's his name is Cody Tenorio. And I met him on Wednesday night at the Kapolei skateboard park. I read an article in midweek about him last week. I went there just to meet him. And the story is a couple of years ago, he's got an 8-year-old son. And what he noticed was that his son he comes home from work, does his chores, eats dinner. By the time he gets all that done, the sun's down. He can't go skate. His son is a skateboard fanatic like his dad. So no time for skateboarding. So he said, well, let's go down to this. I'll just light up the skate park. So he went out and bought a generator, bought some lights, went down to the skate park here in Kapolei. So every Wednesday night now, he lights up the park there. And on Monday nights, he goes to Mililani and lights up the skate park there. Well, I was there Wednesday. There was over 100 people there, families, kids. I mean, it was amazing. And what I said to him was, I said, you know, Cody, what I like about this, you didn't wait for government to do something. Cody, he's maybe 25, yeah, young guy. And he said, you know, there was a need and you came up with an idea and you came out here and now look at this. So his goal is to light up all the skate parks statewide at night so families can have access to these skate parks. Keeps the kids off the streets, keep them busy, you know, it's a good thing. So if you want more information, you can go to my Facebook page. There's he's circulating a petition. He wants to get 5,000 signatures, and that way just get the word out to people. You can sign up a petition, but excellent stuff. So, yeah, this is my first in-person listen story meeting since the COVID shutdown in March of 2020. So, yeah, right. And so in order to accommodate as many people as possible, it's a hybrid meeting, which means some of you are here in person, enjoying the coffee, tea, and cookies, and others are attending via Zoom, unfortunately missing out on the goodies. So, and folks, in case you haven't noticed, it's another boring, gorgeous day in paradise and an exciting time to explore all things related to Senate District 21, which I'm sure that you'll agree happens to be the best, most beautiful Senate district in the entire state. So, FYI, we start these meetings promptly at 9 and finish promptly at 10. If we don't finish the agenda, I'll add it to next month's meeting. Just as an aside, I was an Air Force brat for over 15 years. So believe me, I know how important it is to be on time, thanks to my dearly beloved dad, Sergeant Ben Gabbard. So for you first timers, I call my community meetings listen to stories instead of talk story, because the main purpose is for me to listen to you, my constituents. And so normally at these meetings, I'll talk for about 10 minutes and then I'll give a community updates, legislative updates, and then I begin questions and hear your concerns. There are exceptions though, and today is one of those exceptions. We recently started having guest speakers, and it's been working out very well. So today, for the first hour, we have in person our special guest, Ed Sniffen from the Department of Transportation. He'll provide an update on the Makakilo Drive extension from the state's perspective, and then along with DOT's revenue plans for highway maintenance and much more. He'll save time at the end for your questions. And then following Ed's updates, I'll give you some community updates, and then hopefully we'll have time for some Q&A. If we do run out of time, though, and you don't get to speak, please send me an email, and then we'll follow up with your issues or your concerns. Okay, so let's get started. Ed Sniffen is the Hawaii Department of Transportation's Deputy Director for Highways Division. He oversees an agency responsible for the effectiveness of approximately 2,500 lane miles of state highways across the islands. Good morning. Come on in. The American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, they recently appointed Ed to a 2-year term as chair of its Committee on Transportation, System Security, and Resilience. Ed was previously the executive assistant to Honolulu Mayor Kirk Caldwell. He also served as DOT Highways Division Administrator and as a technical design engineer in the Highways Division Design Branch. He is a civil engineer, having received his bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Santa Clara University. Welcome, Ed. The road is yours. Excuse me, the floor is yours.
See how I do this here. It's a Zoom piece, so I can
just escape it. Maybe this one. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I think, sorry, I just wanted to make sure that was on. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Senator Gabbard, for inviting me to your Listen Story session, and for giving me some questions to prompt some of the discussions that we're going to have today. I think the first question that Senator Gabbard, can you hear me?
I can.
As long as I'm on, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he on?
Yeah. And so the first question that Senator Gabbard had asked me to address is the state's perspective on.
That's what he was asking.
And again, folks, this is the first time we've done this, have a hybrid meeting, so we're working out the kinks. Please be patient.
Oh,
I can,
Yeah.
Good.
Sorry to get on.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Wait,
Wait.
he'll show up on the screen there once. Yeah.
I see him. I'm
There he is.
Okay, working out now.
All right.
Hello, everyone. Thanks very much, Senator Gabbard, for inviting me to your Listen Story session, just to give the state's perspective on different things. Senator Gabbard had asked me to address several questions as part of the discussions. And then, of course, I'll answer any questions that anybody may have. First question he had was on Makakilo Drive extension and the state's perspective on the project. Overall, it's a city project. And it's a project that the state doesn't have funding to address. When we start looking at the Makakilo Drive extension, we always rate and prioritize projects based on their benefit and cost. The state could have looked at doing the Makakilo Drive extension, but the state elected instead to do the Farrington Highway Widening project instead. That's a $150 million project that goes through that widens the Farrington Highway corridor to ensure that we have sufficient capacity for the developments that are already occurring, developments that will occur in the future with DHL and DLNR properties, and the 4 new schools that are coming up in the region. But for that roadway, those projects couldn't move forward. So that's for the Makakilo Drive extension project. It's still on the mid-range and long-range plan. It's still considered as a project for the future, but it's under the city's jurisdiction. Senator Gabbard, is there any other question that I should address as part of that?
I can't think of any right offhand. We did have Director Morton from the city and county, and he spoke on this. He gave us some information about that. If you could, about the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program.
Of course. So for these projects, when we start looking at the mid-range and long-range plans, they all flow into our short-term statewide transportation improvement plan, the STIP. So the STIPing process requires us to adopt the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Plan, from any metropolitan planning organization. So for Oahu, because its population is significant enough, we have an Oahu MPO that runs the Transportation Improvement Plan process for the state. Now, the state adopts the TIP, that Transportation Improvement Plan, after the MPO is done. The tipping process is the MPO will go out to the communities. They'll gather information on the community's needs for different areas throughout the island. They'll bring that information into the Oahu MPO processes. First process is going through the Citizens Advisory Committee. They run the projects through there. They get more information from that Citizens Advisory Committee. That information is transmitted then to the Technical Advisory Committee. The Technical Advisory Committee is the engineers from the modal implementers that are part of the MPO, Hawaii DOT, the City and County Department of Transportation Services, and PARC, our rail transit organization. That Technical Advisory Committee will then transmit that information to the policy board of the MPO. I think there's 12 members of the MPO board that weigh in on projects that come to them. The MPO staff will provide those projects as part of their overall plan to address congestion, multimodality, and safety throughout the systems, and make sure that we score those projects accordingly. So the big message to everybody is get into MPO, provide your input early and often. Even after a STIP is set, because we set our STIP for the next 2 years already. Even after a STIP is set, there's always opportunities. There's 2 every year to amend that STIP, to add in projects or initiatives that the public is looking to push. So that's the STIP process in a nutshell. The STIP process is required from a federal perspective for us to expend any dollar on the federal system in Hawaii. Senator Gabbard, is that sufficient information for that? And I can also say that on our DOT website, we have the write-up on what the STIP process is, and I can show you where that is as well.
Okay, thank you. And then folks that are here in person, we'll leave some time at the end for questions additional questions. Yeah.
Another question.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah. Right. Can you just turn in that way?
Okay.
Yeah, here, just so rotate a little bit.
Sounds good.
Get your chair.
Yeah.
Is that better?
You just
Oh, yeah, now I can start blushing. Another question that Senator Gabbard asked me to address is the Leeward Bikeway project, where we are, what the status is. Leeward Bikeway.
bikeway.
No, not light rail. Leeward Bikeway. Yeah. So the Leeward Bikeway project, it's at 41% complete. Anticipated completion date for the total project is August of 2023. So August of next year. We got stuck with bridges for a little while. And the bridges that we're adjusting throughout the system had some issues that we needed to deal with from an environmental perspective that were unforeseen in the beginning. So the project was delayed because of that in different areas. The contractor and us have moved forward with HECO to address some of the concerns that we had for utilities in those areas as well. So, but the project is moving now. So completion date now is August of 2023. Checking now to see, make sure we're recording. If not, we're going to start all over again.
There was a thing that came up said recording.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
it's-
is.
Okay.
It's recording on my computer.
So Senator also asked about Fort Barrett and Roosevelt Ave improvements project and when that signal at that intersection is going to be activated. The date, the scheduled activation date is September 26th. So next week, I mean, a week and a half from now, it'll be activated in that area. John Rogers had a question about or concern about safety at the Kapolei Parkway and Kapolei Parkway intersection. Our traffic engineers have reached out to John to get more information, and they're going to do the investigation on that. So we'll follow up with Senator Gabbard with information, and of course with John. Another question was on DOT's revenue plans for highway maintenance. So every year we set our budget. And the way the budget had been historically set is that our SMP budget, the special maintenance budget, had always been that account that we borrow money from to pay for everything else. So if you looked at our funding historically, that SMP amount went from $77 million in 2006 or so, down to 30 million when we went through the recession period, back up to 60 million and back down again to 30 million when we went through COVID. So that's always been the account that we addressed, that we pulled money from when we couldn't find sufficient funding to operate and put out the CIP projects that are necessary throughout the system. The legislature helped us address that. So during the last several sessions, they allowed us to increase our revenues without increasing significantly the impacts on our residents. So the legislature passed laws that allowed us to increase the rental car surcharges from $5 to $8. And that surcharge increase has allowed us to raise 45 million that we could put back into maintenance in our system. So now you'll see the last year, our budget is 106 million for special maintenance to ensure that we can get to the pavement areas that are necessary throughout the state. And I think everybody can see when you drive throughout the island, you'll always hit construction jams, right? Which is a good thing. I mean, it's a bad thing when you hit them, but it's a good thing because projects are moving. And we really thank the legislature for helping us get that funding in place to ensure that we can address the system that we have right now. For practical purposes, this is to make sure that we have the system that the public deserves. And also to make sure that we fulfill our federal requirements so we don't get impacted on funding from the federal government. So that's how we're looking at things right now. That's where the maintenance budget is. And on our system, we show all the projects that we're pushing forward on. And I'll show you that on our website as well. Or the Makakilo interchange project, or Kapolei interchange project. This is the last one that the senator had asked questions about. And let me show you just a little graphic of what this interchange project looks like. I find this. Let's show this. So it's a couple of interchange project. We've already done phases 1 and 2. Phase 1 was the initial what we did to make sure that we took everybody, we started taking people away from using just the Makakilo interchange to get into Kapolei. And phase 2 allowed us to get the Wakia extension over to make sure that we could
In context, up at the upper right yellow, that's Makakilo Drive, correct?
Upper right yellow.
Okay.
Yeah. So really the way this was designed, if you look at the Makakilo and Kapolei areas to access these areas, this is actually, if you look at it, this is actually one big interchange. It was designed, I don't want to say incorrectly, but it was designed as a sprawling interchange, which is why it was so problematic from the beginning. So this area took the brunt of all the access point of those people who wanted to access Kapolei, Kailua, and all those areas. So the intent of this first phase is to make sure we started removing some of those that were using this access. You know, filter out down. That was the first step. And the second step is to make sure we could bring in Wakia overpass to show we could further distribute those trips that are coming into town. The third phase will now start removing some of those access nets that are accessing the Kailua Boulevard. So we're pushing everybody over to the new harbor access road that will be built in this area. The first phase is already constructed, connecting up to Kapolei Boulevard, I believe. So this new access point here will allow for access from the west side going east onto the Kailua Boulevard. I'm sorry, Kapolei Parkway. I'm sorry, Kapolei Parkway, and from the harbor access road onto the freeway as well. So we're trying to decongest Kailua and Makakilo. That's the intent. So that's what phase 3 is. Then phase 4 will come in with another flyover to finally complete the access points for all of these, for this sprawling interchange. Now the reason that this is like a $35 million project, phase 3. Phase 4 is another 45 or so. We've already spent 30 on the first phase and another 45 on the second phase. 75, 105, all total about 150 million total. When we look at this interchange improvements in this area. The reason for this, when you guys are driving into town every day, the reason that the congestion is so bad is that 75% to 80% of the jobs in Honolulu live in downtown Honolulu. Our land use had been set up as bedroom communities throughout the island. So we almost guarantee congestion because everybody has to get into the same points every day at the same time. We're trying to make sure now with new access points into this area that we actually incentivize more people to build their commercial spaces here. To ensure that we get more businesses more and a new commercial center set up in this area. So now, if we can distribute some of the jobs from Honolulu into the Kalaeloa Kapolei area, people who are from the Lower Coast or from the west side of Kapolei or from even Central can come here instead. So we can decongest the system. I could either spend $3 billion on the system to decongest it, or we could set up these commercial centers in different areas here in the west side, up near the tech park in Mililani, to ensure that we address the demand versus just the capacity. So that's the intent. That's the intent of these expenditures in this area. Okay, so we're advertising the phase 3 project before the end of this month. We're looking at about 6 months for executing the contract. So by February, March of next year, we would have the contractor start moving forward. It's a 2-year project. Initially, there's not any impact on the system because most of the work is going to be also on the system itself. Only the tie-ins will have effects when we start moving forward. Okay. So that's what this looks like. And I'll send all this information to Senator Gabbard so he can send out to everybody. So nobody has to worry about taking notes or anything, right? Okay.
The recording also, so we'll send you the recording.
Perfect. And I think the last thing I'd like to talk about is the Farrington Highway Widening. I have to find out. So as I said, we're moving forward on the Farrington Highway Widening project because it has a better benefit cost than Makuhito Drive Extension does. Yeah, that's the yeah. Perfect. Okay, so this project supports the developments that are going through the area and the schools that are being built in this area. Now, this roadway, these projects that are shown here, the DLNR, DHHL, and UH properties, have already been entitled. So these homes or these commercial spaces are coming. We wanted to make sure that with this widening, there's sufficient capacity to take care of the traffic needs and the regional connections that are necessary in this area. Initially, this project was designed or considered as 6 lanes throughout this facility. But when we started to look at the volumes through the area, it was a couple of things. We started looking at the volumes through this area. We knew we could take care of it with 3 instead. So 1 lane in each direction and 1 turning lane that extends throughout the length of the project. Because most of the congestion that occurred when we started modeling this area was at intersections. When we take those turners out of the travel lanes, we have sufficient capacity through this area. Secondarily, once we start putting houses on the sides of roadways, I am no longer I'm no longer concerned primarily with throughput. I'm concerned primarily about livability, making sure that everybody that is on the side can use those and access those areas. So having 3 lanes in an area better fits the drive or the throughput in that area because I don't want people speed through it. So we're looking at the 3 lanes through this area. It looks like this right now. The new facility will look like this. That middle lane will be that turning lane throughout. Those 2 lanes will be traveling in each direction. 6-foot bike lanes, 8-foot side lanes. Make sure that we can take care of all loads through this community. Now, one thing that I will say is I might be dead wrong about the capacity. I might need 2 lanes in both directions. I don't know yet. But if I am, what that turning lane allows is for me to contraflow if necessary. So if I have the need for 2 lanes in one direction during peak conditions, I can contraflow that middle lane now to make sure I have 2 lanes in that direction. So we set up that cushion just in case. Okay. So this was going to look like, and this is what it was for. So again, it's going to go from here to this. Okay, so I think it's going to be a good improvement for the community. It will also allow for the high school, middle school, and 2 elementaries to start design. We're working with DOE unit right now. We're working through the design to ensure they can start taking a cap off the high schools that are overloaded right now. So that's the Farrington Highway project. We already bid this project out. There's a bid protest on it right now that we expect to clear in the next week. And once we do, it'll take us 6 months to execute the contract. And then a year and a half to build. And I think, Senator Gabbard, I think that's all the questions that you had for me to address.
Okay. And Ed, where does the widening start and where does it end?
It goes around, it goes out to Fort River Road,
Okay.
and it starts off at the golf course.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So this was a city. Yes. 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 So this used to be a city
great.
facility. So it used to be state on one side where it's 4 lanes. Where it's wide. Ran to the city area and it went back to the city at 4 lanes. So we're taking over that whole segment. So it's now a state facility. I want to make sure we have control over it because it's a parallel access to the freeway. So it allows us now to upgrade all the signals in that area to make sure they're adaptive so that you don't have to worry about which area and waiting for somebody to adjust the signals. But definitely signal technology allows us to go with sensors to track the traffic and volumes through that area, understand what the needs are for the community, and adjust accordingly. So this whole area will be updated to adaptive signals. So this one, it's going to be a year and a half plus 6 months for the execution. So 2 years from now. Yeah.
That's right.
So we need to let everybody down that way. We say, you're in, and that's what it is.
Yes.
Because the loans are going to be the holes, sugars, and make sure we have everything inside.
So the question right now is that route that we're widening, is it just residential all along the route and versus commercial? And the answer is yes. It's going to be residential, and there's going to be high schools on the Mauka side, or sorry, school on the Mauka side. Yeah. Further Mackay, there's going to be commercial spaces, but along that route is going to be residential.
So the 5-5, because that's the part that's already starting to be built.
Yeah.
The one in the corner of and what has it or that's super are has I'm below like the river of the high around Farrington.
Yes. Yes. And that's the thing. We want more commercial space to be built in this area. The whole intent is for us to make sure we start connecting up our better communities with our commercial areas. Everybody talks about bike ped is going to save us from climate change, right? But it's not unless we connect up those bike and ped facilities within the 15 to 20 minute sweet spot to our commercial areas, to our goods and services and opportunities. If we just build bike paths from Nanakuli to downtown, it's going to ride it, right?
Right.
But we are. So we're working with the city right now and we put in a grant to the federal government to make sure we connect up all the city and state bike paths from Nanakuli to UH. Not because I think somebody's going to ride from Nanakuli to UH every day. And that's okay. But because I want to make sure that Nanakuli is connected to Colina. And Colina is connected to Kalelo is connected to Kapolei. Kapolei is connected to Evans. All of those areas should be connected together to ensure that if somebody wanted to ride their bike or walk into these different communities, you have the access. That's the intent. Now, if somebody wants to ride around the community reach, awesome. That's cool. But that's not my intent. My intent is to make sure all these communities are connected to multimodal approaches.
And safe.
Absolutely. Excellent. So the relationship with us and the city is tremendous right now. So make sure that we can move forward on these initiatives together. The intent for this tab is to be almost, you can see, right? The state and the counties have different roles or different roles. My role is to make sure I take care of all the high volume, high speed facilities so that the city can have their facilities be more livable. That's the intent. So they're the lower volume, lower speed facilities. This connection with our paths and pedestrian and bike paths from Nanakuli to UH would serve the same purpose. We want all of those areas connected to this high volume capacity or high volume, high capacity path that connects up to different communities so people can connect there. That makes sense. So this regional approach for the state side so that we can connect up to the different communities throughout.
Great. Okay. Any other questions for our guest, for Ed? Okay.
Oh,
Hang on. Hang on one second.
Sorry.
Question for you.
I don't think this affects like funds at all. So to me, it increases more access. We're not taking any property from them. We're not putting any traffic closer to them. I don't think it'll affect them at all.
Farms affected by the residential.
I'm not sure. But that's the thing though. So the question that's coming up right now first is the roadway construction that's occurring. How does it affect the balloon farms?
Yeah.
The roadway construction does not affect it. The second question that came up was, is the home building for whole Pili affecting the balloon farms? And the answer is right now, if it does, it doesn't change because of the road.
Right.
So whatever entitlements that occurred in the past or entitlements that we're trying to design for, ensure that we have the sufficient capacity to the communities.
Okay.
You have this perfect. Extension of Kapolei Highway Widening Planned. That's when our beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the city. So extension of the question was extension of Kapolei Parkway into Kapolei. When would that come up? But that's a city question.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions from online? Wait, one more.
No, okay.
I think this yeah. And so there's possible
That's the one she's talking.
because I'm making the eye is right and then stay there with some structure.
Yeah.
Kind of low. This is something that where is it? How is this?
Yeah, it's a city. That's the same Kapolei extension that she was asking on.
Yeah. City and county. We'll do the follow up on that and get back to you. See exactly where they are. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Because there's never just time. It's all over business.
Right.
This is where all the tourists begin.
Right. Okay. John Rogers, we have a question.
Yes. Thank you, Senator. And thank you.
Can't hear, John. Why can't we hear John?
Let me,
Maybe this line's
hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yes?
platform look like you, John.
Hello? Can you hear me now? No? You can't hear me?
What's that?
Can you hear me? No?
Is it on his end?
Hello? Can you hear me? No?
It's yours. All you on?
Yeah, mine's on. Go ahead.
Hello? Can you hear me? Nothing. First.
Maybe put it in the chat, John.
Okay.
Sorry. Technical difficulties.
Okay. Can you now? No?
We got nothing.
Okay, he's going to put it in the chat. Let's continue.
We'll get there, you guys. We'll get there. Thanks. This one.
Okay.
Okay, John. I think we're not on William.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Great. So, okay. First, thank you, Senator, for doing this. Thank you, Deputy Sniffen, for being here. This is great. So my question is just, you've answered all like bunch of questions that, so thank you for that, especially Farrington Highway. I've been excited about that, addition for a long, long time. So I'm with the bike guys, and I'm a Leeward, I'm Evan Neighborhood Board guy. And so my question is, and thank you for all the stuff on Farrington Highway. We're really happy and we're getting excited about that one, Kiliaha, Fort Weaver, Old Fort Weaver, and we're excited about the new bike plan actually that puts us in a higher category of getting shared use path down at that end of Fort Weaver. So these are all mahalos. So my question is the Leeward Bikeway or South Shore Trail. You've been talking about this, and I'm so excited that you guys in the city, everyone's talking about it. Is it going to be added? Earlier, you talked about the ORTP and the tip. Will this project be added to the long range plan? Because right now it's not. And I guess my concern is without it being on a long plan, it's really not a plan. So that's my question, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's going to be added, especially because I get fired in December. So once I'm gone, I want to make sure that something in place to ensure that it can keep moving forward. The good thing is, though, we've already pushed it to USDOT. They're fully supportive of it much, and we have a meeting with them to debrief on the applications that we put in. We've also spoken to the mayor and the governor to ensure that they're supportive of it as well. So everybody's tied on. I will say, initially, the city, when we started looking for a connected bike path to work on together, they were looking at the North Shore first. From my perspective, that would have been serving less residents than visitors. And I'd much rather take care of the residents in through these areas to ensure that we're connecting to these new commercial centers that we're putting in place. So we all agreed that this is the best place for this connected path or this connected highway as bike ped to go. So yes, we're gonna be adjusting the ORTP to ensure that it's included.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ed. Very much appreciate your time, sacrificing your Saturday morning to come out. Why is the feedback?
I need very much. It was fun.
Oh.
Here's what
Okay.
I think you can't tell this song.
I want to talk. What man can you?
But you heard the song.
All right.
This
We good? Okay. So again, mahalo nui, Ed. If you didn't get a chance to ask your question, you can send an email to me and we'll make sure it gets covered. So now let's jump into our office and community updates. Who's working the slides? Are you guys? Hello?
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So let me check this out. So as many of you know, our legislative session begins each year in January on the third Wednesday of January and ends around the first week of May. And so I have 2 year-round staffers who are with me today. Most of you all know Meg Turner. She's been with me since 2014, and she's been my office manager during session for the last 8 years, and also community liaison during the interim when we're not in session. So now she's going to be my full-time office manager. And my new community liaison, Genevieve Pomerantz, who officially started work August 22nd. So okay. So I was first elected to the Senate in 2006. And this is my 6th year as the chair of the Agriculture Environment Committee. You might notice my T-shirt.
I did notice that.
I've got to do my job as the Indian chair and promote local ag, right? So, but this is just a reminder that in November after the election, and I'm not taking anything for granted, so we'll see what happens, but regardless of who's in office, November 8th, District 20 will officially change to Senate District 21, and that's where you see it there. So it will include Kapolei, Makakilo, Kalailoa, where our family lives, and then also a portion of Fernandez Village. You can see over there on the right in Eva, part of Eva Villages. And so Senate District 21, it will include the 41st, 42nd, 43rd, and 44th representative districts. And so right now, District 20 includes Westlock and a small portion of Waipahu. So after the November election, that's gone. That Westlock and Waipahu will be in Senate District 18 and 19. And we're adding Honokaihale to Senate District 21 and also Campbell Industrial Park. So essentially, when I got elected in 2006, it was Senate District 19 that included about a third of Kolina and Honokaihale. But then every 10 years after the census, people move around. That's when they redraw the lines. So I lost it. Now I'm getting it back. So I don't know if that's good karma or bad karma, but we'll see what happens. All right. And then for capital improvement projects, CIP, these are monies coming out of the budget. They're for renovations, repairs, major maintenance to existing facilities, landscape improvements, new construction, land acquisition. So the governor sends out a little nice note every time he releases money, CIP money for Senate District 2021. So as Ed was just talking about for the Kapolei interchange there on the screen, so there's $3.5 million to finance the construction of phase 3. And the completion of that is supposed to be August of 2024. And also we got a note from the governor saying 3.3 million will go to finance the design and construction to replace the runway lights at Kalailoa Airport. All right, then as far as community updates, the Daniel K. Akaka State Veterans Home, that's the one across from Walmart. That started in April of 2021. That's when and then the blessing and groundbreaking was in May of 2021. It was scheduled for completion in April of 2023. Yeah. Unfortunately, despite being 67% complete now, the date has been postponed for at least a year. And I was very disappointed to recently learn that the contractor, Nan Inc., they delayed it well into 2024. They've had problems with supply chain, transportation complications, et cetera, for key equipment. So when they complete the facility, it'll be open to all vets who live in Hawaii. We have approximately 118,000 veterans living here in the entire state, with about 87,000 just on Oahu. It will have 120 large private rooms with private bathrooms, skilled nursing, geriatric mental health, dementia, Alzheimer's care, rehab therapies, hospice, and adult daycare. And they've also added a full pharmacy to the design and 7 pandemic-related enhancements. It'll be 2 stories high, 130,000 square feet, and located on 7 acres. We've been getting some questions on what's going to be in that open field. The rest of the open field, we still don't know. So the project, it did receive $44.7 million in a federal grant. And then our state kicked in $53.7 million for planning and design and construction equipment. Okay, and then we also have the Daniel Kahikina Akaka Department of Veterans Affairs community-based outpatient clinic, aka Advanced Leeward Outpatient Healthcare Access, or ALOHA. That's the acronym. Okay, so this is the one that's in Kalailoa, and it's interesting because both veteran facilities, they vied for have the Daniel Akaka name, and there was who we had choose to get the name. So they said, okay, both of you can use Senator Akaka's name. So, and this one is a multi-specialty vet clinic, a few hundred yards, Mackay of Costco on Roosevelt Boulevard. Okay, just so you can get an idea. Hit the next one. So there's Costco on your right by Kamakila Boulevard. The courtyard's on your left and the juvenile detention center. So if you go right down to Roosevelt, that's it, the square. That was when they're first, that big open field, that's where they're building it right now. So once Hunt Companies, who owns it, the land there, completes construction, it's $120 million. It's an 89,000 square foot facility, and it'll provide specialized health care for our 87,000 veterans who live on Oahu. And that will include primary care, mental health, audiology, physical and occupational therapy, dental, and prosthetic services. And they're scheduled to open late 2023. So good news. Yeah. And for you animal lovers, here's some great news. In 2015, it was D.R. Horton. They donated 5 acres of land to the Hawaiian Humane Society for a new facility and dog park in Ewa. It's located on Fort Weaver Road, about a half mile from Queens, on the corner of Old Fort Weaver Road. Yeah. And there it is. Facilities will include open air housing, kennels for animals, areas for pet adoptions, secure drop-off areas for lost pets or strays, and that will be accessible 24/7. Yeah, for any lost animals that you can drop off there. Spay and neuter centers, classroom space for volunteers to learn about animal welfare advocacy, grooming stations, and a vet's clinic. So the completion is expected by the end of 2022, which doors opening in April of 2023. So the Friday before Labor Day, I was invited by the president, CEO, Anna Neubauer, that's her on the right, and also the director of community engagement, Steph Kendricks, for a site visit. And it was awesome. I mean, it was lots of excitement on the west side. And so we won't have to travel to town, to Mo'iliili for their facility. It's going to all be out here. So really good news. And then moving over to DreamHouse. DreamHouse Charter School was founded in 2012 by some educators, parents, and community leaders who were committed to developing and launching a school that would empower homegrown leaders for Hawaii, our country, and our world. And it's Hawaii's newest and fastest growing public charter school. 60% of the students are Native Hawaiian, which is 4 times the average of local district schools. And the middle schools, grades 6 to 8, they opened in 2019 with 106 graders, and that's located in Kalailoa, close to where I live, right there by the Wake Apartments, right? So that's the 3-story mixed-use building, which is planned for the high school, which will be located near the Kapolei Library. It's down the street. The upper 2 floors will be occupied by the high school, and the ground floor will be occupied by retail space. And so the construction is anticipated to begin in the spring of 2023 with completion by June of 2024. I actually went to the high school open house at their temporary building in Kapolei Marketplace, which is just down from Safeway. And on September 9th, and this was my tour guide, Caden Heiger, showed me all around. As a former teacher, I was really impressed with the layout and just what they're doing. At one point, I walked in and it's just like a big room, and all 90 ninth graders are in there, and they're all doing, various things. And the math teacher was sitting at her table like this, and I saw him drawing all over the table. There's a white table, and the students they were drawing over in this, and I said, wow, don't they use paper anymore? And it was a whiteboard on the table, right? So it was really cool. So all you do at the end of the class, students just erase it and you start, save the paper, and really cool. Now you have to go up to the blackboard, and yeah, really, really cool. So very innovative as far as their approach to teaching and learning. So I was inspired. And next we have Parkway Villages. This is a $180 million city project that promises to be one of Oahu's largest affordable and workforce housing projects. It's going to have 400 units, and the average rents, it'll be between $700 and $1,600 a month. A preschool commercial space on 10 acres of city-owned land. And it's located right there. If you see the red dot, the 3 red squares there, that's on Kapolei Parkway. That's right next to Ho'okele Elementary School. Then you can see Fort Barrett, and then see Kapolei High School across the street from Fort Barron. So those three, yeah. So they were supposed to start construction by November of this year, but unfortunately it's been pushed back due to financing and to building permit delays. As you probably read in the media, the Department of Planning and Permitting, DPP, with the city and county, they have some issues that they're going through right now. And so some delays. And so, and then we have the Kapolei Energy Storage, KES. This is a standalone battery storage grid services project. It's like a pacemaker for the grid. When the solar and the other intermittent sources, when they drop or they spike, then they kick in with these batteries from this KES storage project. So the lithium ion battery, it's located at Kapolei Harbor side over by the harbor, Colonial Harbor. And it's on approximately 8 acres zoned for industrial use. And so there was a groundbreaking August of 2021. Construction did not begin until April of 2022. And after a year of delay, completion is projected for May of 2023. Okay, West Oahu. Some impressive recent rankings for our flagship university on the west side. I have to tell you this story. Okay, so I first run as a Republican in 2006, and I get elected. After one session in the legislature, it's made perfectly clear to me by the Democratic majority that I will never get any of my bills passed, nor will there be any appropriations coming to the district. So I start thinking about changing political parties to become a Democrat. I go to my constituents. I ask them, what do you guys think? 99.9% of them said, we don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. We live in the second city, and the second city ain't happening. Whatever you can do, do it. About 6 of my constituents said, you're a turncoat. I sent you $100 check for your campaign. I said, okay. I sat down. I wrote out $100 check to this gentleman. I said, here's your $100 back. If I get elected, reelected, I'm still your senator. Don't hesitate to contact me if I can help you. Shortly after I changed parties, I heard back from all 6 of those guys, and for some reason, I got appointed as the chair of the Environment Energy Committee. And then all of a sudden, and then the key point was in 2008, I was on the Education Committee. I wasn't the chair. And there was a bill in front of us, a $35 million appropriation for West Oahu. My staff, I asked to do the homework. The first appropriation from the legislature for West Oahu was in 1966. $200,000 for planning. We're now in 2008. And at this particular hearing, 2 professors from Manoa come in to testify against the bill. And what they say is, we all know that West Oahu is a fantasy. It'll never happen. You know what? That money, give that money to Manoa to help us become the best research institution in the U.S. That's where that money would be better spent. So these professors are testifying. We're facing the audit, and the chair of the Education Committee in the Senate at that time was Norman Sakamoto. So he's chairing the hearing. I'm sitting over here in the side, and I'm taking deep breaths. This is my district, right? And these guys are, and I'm going, and Senator Sakamoto, he's got his hands below the table like this. He's going, okay, calm down, Gabbard. Don't embarrass me, you know? And I just sat there taking deep breaths, did not embarrass the professors, told them I disagreed with them. And we were able to pass that bill. And the legislature passed that bill. That was in 2008. 4 years later, in 2012, West Oahu opened up. And there it is. It is. And she's right here. And there's the campus there, over 3,000 students. Now, here's some impressive, I tell you, in my U.S. News World Report, which was released, these rankings were released September 11th. Also ranked number 9 with the least student debt and tied for number 3 with the highest ethnic diversity among regional colleges in the West. It was also ranked 24th regional college in the West and number 19 for social mobility among regional colleges in the West. Next slide. So on Tuesday, September 20th, this coming Tuesday, everyone's invited. There's the new dining hall to celebrate the grand opening of the bookstore in the dining hall from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I enjoyed a tour a while back while they were just starting to remodel a couple of years ago. And so in honor of the grand reopening ceremony, they're going to have all kinds of coupons, discounts available at The Spot. I guess that's the name of the restaurant there, and 20% off of regular priced apparel and souvenir items from the bookstore. And so you might want to check that out. Okay, next slide. HECO construction work. You'll see I recently sent an email to my mailing list that HECO is doing night work along Renton Road, the train tracks. It started September 12th through the 15th with maintenance on the steel utility poles along Renton Road train tracks between Fort Barrett and Coral Sea Roads. And it's noted in yellow on the map there. It'll work on additional poles between Forestell Avenue and Fort Barrett starting Monday, the 19th through September 22nd. And that's noted in red. It's being done to ensure continued safe and reliable electric service to their customers. And the work will be done between 7 p.m. and 4 a.m. And nearby residents may hear noise, notice the light towers at the job site during working hours. And the westbound lane of Roosevelt will be closed during work hours on September 12th, 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And that's from Bougainville Street to Forestell Avenue. And they'll have flagmen out there to direct traffic, and it'll be contraflow during that time. And that's it for my community updates. Any questions? Looks like look at this, 10 o'clock, right on time. Is that amazing or what? I owe it all to my staff. But thank you all for coming. Any questions? And also thank you all on Zoom land for joining us. Our next listen story is going to be same room, Saturday, 9 a.m., October 22nd. So please join us. Yes, questions? Sure. Absolutely. Yes.
There's the state, ever consider the separation. Because when I happened, this optional.
Good point.
And it just happens there. It seemed to be a disaster.
Good point. Right. I don't know if that's been, I remember reading someone made that suggestion. We'll look into it and see if they pursue that idea at all. Yeah. Once they're all empty, which keeps getting postponed, but it looks like they've got, I think, January or July of 2024. That's the latest date, but very good. Yeah. We'll look into it. All right. Anyone else? Thank you all for coming, you guys. Okay. Aloha.
Grab a coffee.
Yes, please. Grab some cookies for the long drive. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Zoomers. Goodbye. Mahalo. Thanks for joining us. Aloha.